Did you know one of the toughest presidents in American history started life too weak to even go outside some days? Theodore Roosevelt was not born a legend. He built himself into one through sheer stubborn will, the kind of will that looks history straight in the face and says, "Move." Teddy was born in 1858 into a wealthy New York family, but health does not care about bank accounts. He had crippling asthma, attacks so severe his father had to take him on late-night carriage rides to help him breathe. Doctors did not know what to do. Most children with his symptoms grew up quiet, cautious, and limited. Teddy chose the opposite. One day, gasping after another attack, he told his father, "I will make my body." And his father, a towering force in Teddy's life, built him a home gym. Weights, ropes, punching bags. And the weak little kid who could barely breathe began his transformation. He lifted every day. He boxed. He hiked. He rode horses until he was bruised. He refused to accept the life his body tried to give him. By his early 20s, Theodore Roosevelt was not just healthier, he was fierce. He graduated Harvard, studied law, and jumped into politics with the same energy he used to attack the punching bag. But life hit back harder than any opponent in the ring. In 1884, tragedy struck him twice in one day. His mother died, and just hours later, his young wife died in the same house. Heartbroken, Roosevelt wrote in his diary, "The light has gone out of my life." Most people would retreat. Roosevelt ran toward something else entirely. He left New York and fled to the Dakota Territory, the raw frontier, where he remade himself again. He became a rancher, a sheriff's deputy, and sometimes the only law for hundreds of miles. He chased outlaws through blizzards, fought drunken cowboys, and lived in conditions that would break softer men. The Badlands did not break him. They forged the legend America was about to meet. By the time he returned to New York, he was almost unrecognizable. Not the frail boy he had been, but a hardened, confident, sharp-minded force of nature. A man who knew that if he could survive loss, storms, and gunfights on the frontier, he could take on anything. And he was just getting started. When war broke out with Spain in 1898, Roosevelt did not wait to be asked. He resigned his government job and helped form the Rough Riders, a volunteer cavalry unit made up of cowboys, native scouts, Ivy League athletes, and anyone wild enough to follow him. Teddy trained them like they were his own family. He rode with them, camped with them, ate the same food, and shared every hardship. And when it came time for battle, Roosevelt threw himself forward with the same ferocity he used to conquer his fragile childhood. The Rough Riders' most famous moment came at the Battle of San Juan Hill, where Roosevelt, on horseback and fully visible, led his men uphill under heavy fire. When his horse could not go further, he ran the rest of the way on foot. Charging a fortified position uphill with bullets snapping past his hat was not bravery. It was simply Roosevelt being Roosevelt. That charge made him a national hero overnight. But it also revealed something deeper. A leader who inspired loyalty through action, not orders. When the war ended, Roosevelt rode his fame straight into politics. He became governor of New York, where he fought corruption so aggressively that party bosses panicked. They shoved him into the vice presidency to get rid of him, assuming the job would keep him quiet and out of the way. Then President McKinley was assassinated. At only 42, Theodore Roosevelt became the youngest president in American history. He did not ease into the role. He kicked the door off its hinges. Roosevelt believed the presidency was not merely an office, but a pulpit, a loudspeaker for reform. He targeted monopolies that crushed workers, corporations that ignored laws, and industries that took advantage of ordinary Americans. He forced railroads and slaughterhouses to accept oversight they had dodged for decades. And his philosophy was simple: speak softly and carry a big stick. He strengthened the Navy, sending the Great White Fleet around the world to show that the United States was now a rising power. But Roosevelt was also the father of American conservation. He protected forests, rivers, mountains, and wildlife at a scale never seen before. Without him, half the American West would be paved over. To Roosevelt, a strong nation protected both its people and its land. The presidency that redefined power. Roosevelt did not just run the presidency, he reinvented it. Before him, presidents waited for Congress to act. Roosevelt acted first and dared anyone to stop him. He championed the Square Deal, a platform built on fairness, fair treatment for workers, fair competition for businesses, and fair rules for the entire country. After reading The Jungle, Roosevelt sent investigators into meatpacking plants. They found horrors he could barely describe. He pushed for the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act, laws that created the foundation for modern food safety. If something was wrong, Roosevelt fixed it. He also negotiated peace between Russia and Japan, winning a Nobel Peace Prize, the first awarded to an American. And when corporations broke the law, Roosevelt had no hesitation. Break them up. 44 monopolies fell under his watch. But beneath the aggressive reforms was a man of incredible curiosity. He read constantly, sometimes finishing a book a day. He wrote more than 30 books himself. He boxed in the White House until he was struck so hard he lost sight in one eye. And he still kept going. This was Roosevelt, unstoppable, restless, and always in motion. But his momentum hit a wall when he stepped aside after his presidency. He endorsed William Howard Taft as his successor, expecting Taft to continue his reforms. When Taft did not, Roosevelt returned and ran again, splitting the Republican vote and launching the Wild Bull Moose campaign. In 1912, while campaigning in Milwaukee, a gunman shot Theodore Roosevelt in the chest at close range. The bullet tore through his steel glasses case and his folded speech before lodging near his ribs. Roosevelt touched the wound, saw blood on his fingers, and calmly announced to the crowd, "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose." Then he gave a 90-minute speech while bleeding, refusing to go to the hospital until he was finished. He lost the election, but his legend grew larger than the office he once held. After politics, Roosevelt explored Africa and the Amazon. He mapped the River of Doubt, nearly died of malaria, and pushed himself through jungles most men would not survive. His health broke down, but his determination never did. When he died in 1919 at only 60, the vice president said, "Death had to take Roosevelt sleeping, for if he had been awake, there would have been a fight." Roosevelt was not perfect. He was brash, impulsive, stubborn, and reckless. But he lived with a courage and intensity that made him unforgettable. He believed in action, in bravery, in pushing yourself beyond your limits. And he believed the same for his country. His legacy lives on in national parks, trust-busting, food laws, naval power, and the modern presidency. Theodore Roosevelt did not simply guide history. He grabbed it by the collar and dragged it forward. History remembers presidents for laws they signed or wars they won. But Theodore Roosevelt is remembered for something rarer. He is remembered for the way he lived. Every choice he made, every fight he picked, every mountain he climbed, and every battle he charged into became part of a story that feels almost too big to belong to a single human being. Roosevelt believed deeply in what he called the strenuous life. He believed a person should push himself, challenge himself, and refuse to let weakness or comfort decide the limits of his life. And that idea shaped everything he touched. It shaped his childhood, his career, his presidency, and even his time after leaving office. When Roosevelt protected millions of acres of forests and rivers, he was not only saving land, he was saving the idea that a country should leave something beautiful and wild for the generations that would follow. He wanted America to be strong, but also wise, ambitious but responsible. He knew that a nation that destroyed its wilderness destroyed a part of its own soul. When Roosevelt took on monopolies and corrupt corporations, he was not trying to punish success. He was trying to prevent power from crushing the ordinary American. He believed the rich should not control the government, and the government should not kneel to the rich. In an age of greed and exploitation, Roosevelt fought to make fairness the law of the land, and when he strengthened the Navy, traveled the world, and brokered peace between Russia and Japan, he showed that leadership did not have to be loud to be powerful. He believed in quiet strength, in resolve, in confidence backed by action. Speak softly and carry a big stick did not mean bully the world. It meant be prepared, be calm, and act only when necessary. Even outside politics, Roosevelt lived with the same intensity. He studied animals in the wild, wrote books on nature, and explored jungles and deserts because he felt that a life worth living was one filled with curiosity and courage. Many modern leaders talk about resilience and grit, but Roosevelt lived those ideas every day. He faced asthma, grief, political enemies, bullets, dangerous expeditions, and a lifetime of exhaustion. And he overcame all of it through willpower that feels almost unreal. His critics said he acted too fast, spoke too boldly, and pushed too hard. And maybe he did. But the world he helped shape is stronger because of that relentless energy. Roosevelt refused to be ordinary because he believed a person gets only one life, and it should be lived with purpose. When Americans walk through national parks, enjoy safe food and medicine, or witness peaceful transfers of power backed by strong democratic institutions, they are living in the world Roosevelt helped create. His influence is carved into mountains, written into laws, and stitched into the fabric of what people expect from leadership. Theodore Roosevelt once said, "Do what you can, with what you have, where you are." And he proved that one person, armed with courage and conviction, can change an entire nation. More than a century after his death, Roosevelt remains one of the most vivid, powerful figures in American history. Not because he was perfect, but because he was alive in every sense of the word. Relentless, curious, fearless, flawed, brilliant, and utterly unforgettable. If you enjoyed this trip down the rabbit hole, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to Smart History for Dumb Times. And if you feel like fueling more historical deep dives, the link to buy me a coffee is in my bio.